Hi, Matt Jordan, Poe River Furniture. I have a promise to keep. I was doing a demonstration for Lighthouse Wood Turners in Biloxi on Saturday, and for lack of dry erase markers and the proper tools I would normally use, I didn't have with me. Um, the demonstration was a real hash, so I wanted to make sure that everybody who was there had a good idea of what a flame finial is, how you make one, and cover something we mentioned but didn't get to in terms of the demonstration, which is how to mark your blank for a flame finial. So what we're going to do is find center, and I'm using a irregular shaped piece of wood, which is actually fine. It's going to demonstrate how this works pretty much no matter what. I'm going to find center, and we mark that by going across to these little corners here. And there is basically center. So I'm going to take my compass and mark a circle. I'm going to show you how to do that, but to demonstrate the geometry of breaking down the spires, making marks for how many spires you want, I'll do that on paper because it'll be easier to demonstrate. Anyway, that would be the circle, and I'm going to demonstrate how you would mark this circle up in order to create 3 spires. If you wanted to create 2 spires or 4, that's quite easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out to 2 inches on my compass. Almost there. Okay. And I'm going to mark a circle on a blank piece of paper. And again, it's just for demonstration purposes. This is a giant demonstration of what the end grain of your blank will look like. You got your circle drawn. Now, if you wanted 2 spires, you would simply strike a line across center. And these 2 marks here would become the marks that you would start your spires from. And we'll get into spires in the next 2 videos. If you want 4, you make a perpendicular line, and these become your marks. But we were talking specifically about 3, and someone said, how do I establish 3? You'll see on my lathe and on a lot of lathes, the positions are indexed, and you can literally mark the thirds and then transfer the mark to the piece. But some lathes don't have that. So in this case, we have a circle that's 4 inches wide, and I'm going to mark across center. Now, the next thing we want to do is establish thirds. Now, the way you do that is to strike a line perpendicular to the existing line to the edge of the circle. That's a 2-inch line. If you go to the halfway point of that line, that's going to be where you establish thirds. What I'm going to do now is make a perpendicular line through that mark from edge to edge. These become your thirds. I'll continue the old line from the top down to the bottom. And now I have thirds. This is how you would mark your blank. This is how you would mark your circles. You put your thirds approximately here, here, and here based on these measurements. It's a line, a diameter line, a perpendicular line, and then a perpendicular line through the halfway point, and that's thirds. You can continue to use this again and again and then divide those in half and create positions of a clock, for example. But here, all we're looking for is start points for our spires. And I will get into that in the shop in the next 1 or 2 videos. Okay, we're back in the shop. I have my 1/3 marks. I'm not exactly certain you can see them. The light is a little bright. I'm going to darken those for you to make sure that you can see them in the video. Okay, these are the marks that dictate how many spires we're going to have. In this case, we're going to have 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark this off to get started on actually making the spires. You just take a straight line out to the top. That deviated a little bit. Like I said on Saturday, if you were there, this is not, if you're not deadly accurate with these vertical lines, it's not the end of the world. So long as you're not extremely out. Because as you work this, you're gonna be shaping it almost subjectively to the way you want it. Okay, so we have 3 marks created. That dictates how many spires we're going to have. Now, what we have to do is decide how many turns we want. Now, I'm going to take this, I believe it's 2/3 of the way around. I'm going to have a grid of 3. My starting point, I'm going to start my flames here. The old style, I always started here. That was line number 1. I'm going to take line number 1 out a little ways. Okay? And to do that, let me put my fence back in. We're going to take the fence up and we're going to measure out to just what I consider my starting point. And I'm going to put that at a 1/2 inch. Now, from there to the end is 1 3/4 inches. So I want 3 points to take the tape to. 1, a center point, and then the end point, which will be here. So since it's 1 3/4, I'm going to take it to a 1/2 inch plus the 3/8. That makes my center point right there. Okay, that basically divides, let me double check that. It should divide it in half. And it does. Now I'm going to mark those 2 lines with my pencil. Take the pencil up to the mark. As you can see, this particular piece has a wobble in it. I drilled the hole after it was round. I recommend you set this up beforehand square, because sometimes when you try to drill round, in this case I had it in clamps and it slipped into clamps, so it still doesn't matter. That's the beautiful thing about this design. So the next thing we're going to need, and I mentioned this the other day, the reason I like to use duct tape for this job is because it tears and strips so easily. What I'm going to do is start at any intersection at the bottom, any one of the 3. Put the tape right on the intersection, one edge of the tape. And then gradually take that tape to the next intersection. And then keep going until I reach the final intersection. I'm going to mark that a little deeper so you can see it. The final intersection right there on the tip. I'm going to take the tape right to there. And that will be my first spire. Now what I do, once I have this tape in place and taped down, is I'm going to take my pencil and just scribe a line right alongside that tape, using the tape as my tracer. And make sure that I intersect my points the way I want to. Pull that tape a little tighter. This is not rocket science. It's not exactitude. Call it therapy. Flame finials are one of my favorite things to make. I really enjoy messing around with these designs. Start at my next line at the bottom. Run that diagonally up to that grid point and up to the third grid point. And then trace the line again. I'm going to finish this on video. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done. And when I'm there, I'll cut the video and we'll start the next segment. You know what? No, I won't. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going because I can go right into the next thing without moving anything around or any major production, without making you watch too much redundant stuff. And again, I'm just tracing the line that the tape gives me. I think there was a little cheat on that section just there. Oh, this section doesn't intersect my line. That's why it came out so far off. There we go. Now we got a good intersection. And continue that line up. Up. Still kind of messed up. But this is a very easy fix. We'll take that out. It's a very forgiving process. See, the problem I had on this one is I started tracing from the top. Okay, that part of the line is good. We'll continue this part of the line. Go across, make this better. And that should give us a good line to follow. There it is. No. Bring that there. Okay. Somehow, you know what? I'm going to get a fresh piece of tape. This is a good mistake to see because it shows you what you need to do to correct. Take a fresh strip of tape. I'll take a really skinny one this time. Whoop, that doesn't want to cooperate. All right. Skinny piece of tape. Exciting, isn't it? This demonstration isn't going much better than Saturday's demonstration. Okay, now we got a skinny piece of tape. The first two lines went really well. But these second two are kind of a pain in the ass. Make sure I capture that one. Capture that one. And it doesn't quite want to cooperate. It's still breaking on me. Capture this one. Okay. And we will go back one more time. Start from the other end. And trace this line out to the intersection this time. There we go. And continue to follow that line up to my top mark. Okay, I like that one better. Okay, there you go. Now, the other day I had a very small back cut or flush cut saw. I replaced it. It's still not, the present saw I have still isn't as rigid as I would like it to be, but it's more rigid. It's real big, kind of overkill for our purposes, but it'll get the job done. It's better than the old one that gave me a near fatal injury right in the middle of my demonstration. And to get this started, you go to your first line, any line, pick one. And let me lock that. And you make a back cut. And then you just follow the line around, making small cuts. What this does, since the saw is a little bit flexible, and we're just using small cuts right now, this is going to allow us to follow that curve around to our end point. That kind of slid a little bit. This is very green oak I'm using, and this is very much sliding in a way I don't like, but there we're back. Again, very forgiving, right? All I had to do was twist the saw a bit, and I was back in action. Okay. A little bit more of a cut. Take it right up to our end point. And then what you do is just repeat this cut until you have the depth you want. Just follow it along until you've reached the depth you want. Also, I didn't put a hole in the end of this one. On Saturday, we talked about having a hole in the end. I didn't do that. I think when you're first doing these, you may want to just do the end finish using files and your saws the way Normie teaches. He's the expert, not me. And then later, if you want to add some depth to the tip of your work, then you might want to go in with a horizontal bore and make a little hole smaller, considerably smaller than what you want the end to be. That way you'll be able to work around and get the definition you want. But this will give you definition. You saw the chocolate ice cream cone finial. That didn't have a hole in the end, and I was able to finish off the tips nicely. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I will cut the tape, and we'll come back when it's time to do the next step. And that way it'll just be easier to follow and break down. So you just keep going with this saw. I'm going to take mine to, let's see, I'm going to go just past the depth of the teeth, which in this case is only about 1/8 of an inch. Depth of these teeth. Tooth depth. 1/16 of an inch. So this is a small thing. This is going to be a wine stopper. So I'm not going to go much further than maybe, right now I got right to the depth of the teeth, which, well, maybe we'll double that. One way of getting a uniform hole, I may do this before I'm done, is to put a line of painter's tape to the depth that you want on the saw. And then you just keep wiggling across this line, until you get to that painter's tape. And then you stop. Then you slide a little further and go a little further. Rotate, cut, until you can run the saw through every part of that curve, and you're right at the painter's tape. Okay, so that's one way you can do that. So we're going to stop now, and when I come back, we'll get into actually shaping the spires. Okay, I have my spires marked, and cut out. I've started doing a little bit of shaping, but there's a number of ways you can go about shaping. My favorite way, if I can find the good one, I can't find the good one. Oh, here it is a microplaner. This is a sheet metal perforated rasp. These are very inexpensive. You can get them online. It's called Microplane. And you can also get a 12-inch version. Now, the thing about these is you can't go hard on them, and you don't have to. You can start, I just do this to start my shape, to get an idea of how the walls of the spires are going to come up. They give me kind of a guideline to follow as I'm shaping the valleys. I just do very little work with these, and they take plenty of wood off. If you go too hard, you end up with one that looks like this. Okay? It's got a little bend in it. Hold that to the light, maybe you can see it. That's because I pushed too hard. Now, the beautiful thing is, it still works. I can do this all day long. But I'll just get the shape started, and then I'm going to continue the work using a rasp and files and sandpaper. That's how we're going to finish up. I'll get part of the way through one of the spires, enough to give you an idea of what I'm actually attempting here. I'm going to start with a big square file. We're going to take that down to where we actually hit the bottom of the saw mark. And this is very easy to use. I like this file for this purpose because, again, we're not finishing with it. We're just taking the narrow section, putting the corner right against the saw cut, what's left of it, and defining our valleys. If you want a wide valley, I have made some spires that had a very wide valley. Continue using this. Take this all the way to the bottom. Then you'll have a nice wide groove, and then the spires coming up and over. I'm gonna hopefully come away with a little bit straighter, sharper, more defined valley. Now the rasp I use, again, for a bottle stopper, this is kind of overkill, but it has a narrow edge. This is a Shinto. I've had it for years. I'll have to look up the information on it. I'll try to post it on YouTube if they'll let me, and tell you where to get one of these puppies. But it's basically, it has the look of a saw blades that are put together in a grid. They have a fine side and a rough side. And what you do with this is you lay that right into the bottom of the valley and ride that edge and just go back and forth. And this is where you're starting to come up over the top a little bit and shape that spire. Okay? And you flip back and forth, fine and coarse, depending on how comfortable you are with the cuts you're taking. Now I'm going to take this out until I'm starting to shape this one particular valley, and that'll give you an idea. As you can see, I'm coming up, I start at the bottom at that cut, and then I come up over the top a little bit, and that's starting to round over my spire. Okay, this is going to look like a little lick of flame when we're done. That's the idea. And then once you have the piece rounded to where you like it, look how rough it is. You can see it's very rough. That's all going to be dealt with. In the process of shaping this thing, you're shaping and refining at the same time. So you'll come through with a smaller file, and then you'll come through with heavy sandpaper, fine sandpaper, and by the time this thing reaches the shape you want, it's going to be smooth. It's going to be ready for a finish. So I'm going to continue on with this. I'm going to show you right here. I'm starting to shape the end already of the flame. I'm going to continue on this process, just going down to the saw cut and then working my way out over the top, rounding out that flame. And I'll just work on this for a little while, and then when I come back, all these will have been shaped using this process. You know what? I'm not even going to come back, because you already know what you're looking for. Even if you're not a wood turner, or you're not a member of Lighthouse, well, you know what? If I have to do any fine filing, I'll come back for that. But once you see the shape taking place, you're going to know how to handle it from there. Okay. Okay. While you're shaping, it just struck me as I was working. I started to file and sand, and then I started to see things I didn't like. While you're doing this, you're constantly taking stock of the edges of your valleys, because this is going to be a gradual round over. You want everything to look pretty much the same. Like I just noticed a sharp corner right here, and you don't want that. So I'll just very gently take my rasp and knock off that corner until it looks like the other corners in that area. There's a section I don't want. So while you're working, this is now from the time I started shaping. It's now a completely subjective exercise. You want this to look the way you want to look it, not look. You don't want it the way I want it to look. So that's what you're going to work toward. You just keep taking these edges up and over until you feel you have an image that looks like a flame. Okay, and mine is starting to get there. I still have a ways to go, and I still have a lot of filing and sanding to do. This is a labor-intensive piece, and I am going slow because I want to stop at each step and demonstrate. But I find that the more I do these, the faster they go, and they make a nice accent for a bottle stopper. The first time I did them was on top of a bedpost. I made a 4-poster bed for my son's wedding gift, and I put 4 of these on the posts and then a small one on the center of the headboard. They came out really good. Similar to this in style, I think my turns were a little more radical. I had more turns into the finial, and it was about maybe 5 inches. The big ones were about 5 inches. The small one was about 3.5 inches. But you have the idea. So from this point on, all the work you're doing is going to be filing and shaping. Just file and shape until you get what you want. Also, this is only my second or third time for any project working in green wood. This is a piece of an old water oak that they cut into on my property. The power line guys did. So I salvaged a bunch of it, and I made a few things from it. But in this project, it's stringy and grabby. It's much more difficult to take down smooth than a piece of properly kiln-dried wood. It's oak, but right now it's behaving like cheap pine. Pine does this to me when I work it. But if this were a piece of barn oak, this stuff would be visually smooth already. So it's going to take a little more patience on my part to complete this piece. So I recommend you work with a piece about a square block, 2 times larger, give or take, than what you're ultimately going to want. Mark your circle. set up your thirds or quarters or whatever you want in terms of how many spires you want on the end of the block. In this case, I use an adapter with a 11 millimeter threaded screw. So you're going to want to drill that before you take it round. I created this blank and then I drilled it and it moved. So you don't want to do that. You want to drill out that center hole after you've marked it, but before you turn it round. Other than that, now from this point on, you're just playing. You're just making it the way you want it to look, and it is fun. This is my favorite lathe job. So I hope you have fun with it, and maybe if anybody messes with it during the month for Lighthouse Wood Turners, we might see one or two at the meeting next week or next month. All right. Thanks. Bye.